This one's called City Walk. Up twists and turns, the rope tangles behind. As we push towards the show, hear those speakers in line. You poison me with your pictures, I fall and now my wrist hurts. Well, I'm in love with your passion, but at least you leave me asking. The city walk's got me click-clacked, harmonies rolling coaster lately, baby.
Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. I'm very happy to welcome J.Edmond here, and we are going to talk about a single that he's got out called City Walk, but from what I heard, you got another song coming out. So, before we get into that, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. I have been playing since I want to say 16. I got the writing bug just to start writing. Started writing original tunes, and I always did originals first. Covers were struggles for me. I always wanted to be, I wrote this, I want to do this, even though I love classic rock. I grew up on like the Byrds, the Beatles, the Who, the Stones, any of the major, like, early predecessors to the genre of music in general. It became rock and roll. And I like Badfinger, all-time favorite band, and a lot of the power pop stuff. And that's where I kind of was like, I gotta find a way to be this, but also be original, be myself, which is hard in the power pop scene. You deal with a lot of different, like, is this that or is that not? And it's always a fun discussion. It's always fun. It's like people can ruin it, but it can be fun too. I met my producer actually through one of the power pop groups on Facebook. Might have been Power Pop Overdose, which I like a lot. Kurt Vance is a nice guy. And I met my producer through there. And it kind of became like kind of funny. That was like, I've always been in that music field, always working with that. But I've been writing for a long time. And right now I currently like left my full-time job to pursue music, to do this, take that dangerous step. Lucky enough, I live under my parents' house. Very grateful for that. Can take that step, which is, usually opposite. I wouldn't be able to if I wasn't, but it's fun. But also now I'm looking for a part-time and then gigging at night is what I'm trying to, the perfect schedule for a musician. I'm trying to do that, but it's been an experience to say that, this song has been, I never expected this much attention to it, which I'm very happy for. Very grateful.
And the drummer, did I read correctly that he also plays with Bow Wow Wow?
Yes, so he is the current drummer of Bow Wow Wow. That is A. Michael Collins. He is producing. He is the current producer. That song went through two different producers. I switched over to him like halfway through, but he's in LA, so it's really cool that, like, I live in Connecticut. I'm on the far east, and he's on the far west, and we're just like FaceTiming, like, or Zooming like this. And I'm watching him record parts of the track last night, actually, for the new song. But he finished up City Walk, this new one, Searchlights, which is coming out within the next 2 months. I want to say give us like, time with the promotion and stuff period, but it's coming out soon. I don't want to put a date because we're not sure yet. But we just finished up everything last night, and we just got a saxophone player played on it. So it was very exciting to hear that. I've never had that in my music career, and I'm very excited. And, but it's funny. Yeah, that is A. Michael Collins, and he was on with Bow Wow Wow. I think they're like split, where the band has one version and they have another version. And like one tours on the Live Nation side, then one tours. It's like, I've seen bands like Badfinger has that issue too. And like two different Badfinger bands I see, and it's like, ooh, interesting. So it's like a copyright dispute thing.
Now, you used to go by Jebb.
Yeah. So that's a career full of 50 plus albums. I have a lot out under that, and it was just, we kept creating. I used to go by Jebb in high school because there was another kid named Jeremy. And I never really felt like, if I heard the name Jeremy, they're not calling me, but they're calling the other popular kid. So I wanted to be Jebb, and that worked. It did work. So then when I finished high school and went into college, and I was in a band or two, I kept the name Jebb. But then on the solo side, I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to call my solo career. We're going to use the name Jebb. But there was a lot of multiple people, like with those songs. Owen Radford in Ohio. Some of my friends, we all like worked together at the time, and we're making these great songs under the name Jebb, but there was like more than the one person. So that's why I created the name switched back to my actual name, which is Jeremy Edmond, but it's J.Edmond. with period, just to kind of copy Michael a little bit too. He gave me permission, so it's A.Michael and then J.Edmond.
And your
which
dad gave
fun.
you that nickname?
For Jebb, yeah. It's Jeremy Edmond Beatles Boy. It was for Club Penguin. It was like logging into it was my RuneScape name too, I think. I used to play all those like MMORPGs on the computer, and Club Penguin was just the fun social side of it too. When I was like 8, and I was I needed a name for the username, and that's what he came up with. And then later on told me what it stood for, and I was like, oh, that's cool. So that's what Jebb was, yeah. So it's always different.
You need to tell us the story behind City Walk.
Sure. So that one's fun because previously with all the Jebb stuff, kind of another reason why we wanted to change directions too. With all the Jebb stuff, it was always kind of like there wasn't really any personal stories. It was always kind of like we wrote like, I would say musicals, but like concept rock, like concept albums and stuff. We were always writing a story. And our latest one, which I have the full done album recorded, and I think I'm gonna release it at some time. There's a lot of kind of me moving on. The other members, like, we don't talk much, that kind of thing. And it's like, we all go in separate directions. I respect them 100%, and I had to bow out because I'm going in my own path, going differently, and I had to reserve what I want to do, which is different from the group. So I kind of like separated off. And but I still want to release that album at some point. I owe it to my friend who we don't talk much anymore, but I owe it to him to get that out. He did a lot of work for that, and it's something I care about, which was Spaceship Truth. So after that, that's all like a fantasy, like, aliens, stuff like that. It was just fun to write. It was like a sci-fi concept rock. I wasn't writing songs that were personal. I'm writing songs that I'm telling a story. We took War of the Worlds and made it more modern type thing. So I wanted to kind of change gears. Well, I recently took a trip to Florida. Well, now it's like 2 years, 2 years ago. I took this trip to Florida, and I went to Disney. I was hanging out with my friend, and he's my editor for a lot of the stuff that I write, and he always checks my grammar. He's like my personal editor, ghostwriter type thing. Josh Bradley, huge shout out. And we were working on some stuff, and I was like, I'm going to fly into Florida. I've never been to Disney. I want to go. And we'll also go see the All American Rejects because at the time I just interviewed Nick Wheeler on my podcast that I was doing for a while. It's not active anymore. We bring it back when we feel like we need to, but it's fun. But I enjoy it, and that was called Unlikely Places. But we interviewed Nick Wheeler of All American Rejects, and I got invited to go to the show that they were having at City Walk at the Hard Rock Cafe in Orlando. And I've never been to something like that. Like, just the whole song is about that experience. It's about going to this show. Not at home. I'm not in Connecticut anymore. I'm in Florida. I'm in a different place. Never, the sights, the sounds, everything. And a lot of people too. And I suffer from wicked social anxiety. So I'm always pushing myself to kind of, talk to people, get back to the thing. Cause I always feel like it's a trick of the mind. I just need to keep forcing myself, and it'll ease itself out. It hasn't yet, but it will. But going down to Florida really did help. I got on a plane by myself, met with him, we hung out, and going down there. And there's like some dark points in there too. Like the line right at the beginning of the song is mentioning like the end of the Jebb career. A lot of our dark stuff was written into the Jebb stuff. And right that first line, you have the rope dangles behind. I'm actually talking about my mental health stuff in that song, and like trying to show that like it doesn't control me anymore, but I still get those dark thoughts. Still like, why am I here? What's the purpose? And that song kind of gave me that like landscape. It's funny to me because it was supposed to be like an emo song, but the first producer I went to was like, we got to do it Americana style. And I was like, okay, all right, we'll give it a shot. And I liked how it came out. So I kept the parts in that he did. Then we didn't get too along towards the end. I kind of felt like I wasn't comfortable with him, and not giving him no credit or anything. He's on the instrument, all that. So we switched over to Michael, and I just enjoyed everything that we've done with that. And it's fun that we kept that part in because he's a great lap steel player. Stephen Rogers, so we go by, which is the same name as Captain America. But he's playing the lap steel there, and it changes the song entirely, which is why I was like, I want to make amends with this guy, because I'm a hot-headed 20-year-old. I'm always like next thing, and I wanted to be like a man about it and be like, hey, you're still credited, you're still there, you deserve this. You're making the song what it is. So we kept that in, and then I just chose to go work with Michael because I've known him for a while, and I also like the LA scene of musicians that are out there that now I get to work with. So it's really cool. But City Walk is a time capsule of my mental health, my story, and like everything all built in one. So I'm very happy that the reception they're hearing what I'm writing. I've had songs before where I've written something and somebody comes, oh, is this what it's about? And I'm like, oh, that's farther from the truth than what I thought. This song, people are like, hey, is this about this? Yes, it is. You know, it's a nice feeling.
I suffer with some mental issues myself, and I got into meditation to help
Yeah.
me. I don't know if they put you on all those drugs and everything, but number one, they didn't seem to really help, and a lot of
Right.
times it made it worse.
For me, it was the same thing, and it's a story that I'm hearing that's very unique. Or not, now it's not as unique as it used to be. Now it's more common. I'm hearing that no one's. I'm lucky enough. I use I smoke and have that, like those kind of things, and that seems to help because I'm with a doctor's like looking over it. I never thought of that, and with the stuff I have, it's like it's come and goes. I have it like once a month. It comes out of nowhere. I become this like different person, and then it's back to normal. So we're trying to find ways, but I always tell people, it's worth a shot to try it. And if it doesn't work, but sometimes people don't get lucky enough to be able to switch their psychiatrist or able to switch those things. But I'm very open about it because it's something that needs to change because a lot of us are suffering in silence, and it scares me. And that's what these songs are about. This whole album, these singles are coming out for a full album called Searchlights, which will include some guests and stuff that I'm not at liberty to say yet because we're still building the guest list. But I will let people will be surprised who we get, and it'll be fun. But for the next single, Searchlights, it kind of continues that story of that becoming who you are is already a chore. When you're young, trying to figure out these things, then you got to add mental health on top of it. It's terrible. It's like another whole thing. And people don't understand. It's like, I don't choose to sometimes come off as arrogant or full of myself. I try not to, but it's the way sometimes I have bipolar. So it's like, it doesn't help. I try to, and that's where the social anxiety comes from. And everybody's like, you're going to get better. And it's like, I am, if I just keep pushing myself little by little and know my comfort zone. And if I'm going over it, I go home and I relax and I make sure, and then I go back out and try again. Music is like the worst career to pick for somebody that's trying to, isolate and hide off. I love being on stage. That's like my go-to. So I always try to push through those boundaries because I want to be on stage. You have to meet people to get shows. You have to go out and talk to people and network. The social media thing works for an audience of just online. Don't expect those people to show up at your shows. You got to network and got to do those things still. And it's rewarding when you learn about yourself through that. And that's something I also really like meditation. I'm a big believer in, I'm very stoic. So I always kind of I'm always like, oh, I'm very stoic. But then there's a part of me that loves meditation, which is kind of the opposite, where you need to be out of your mind. You need to be. And I love kind of challenging myself with the both views and using them because I'm into the both things. But I do find myself meditation allows my brain to just shut off, because that's the worst for me I ramble or I'm passionate and then my brain doesn't shut off and I can't get sleep. And then that's just their cycle all over again,
Oh man, that sucks when you wake up at
right.
2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and your brain doesn't want to shut down.
Right. It's like I'm trying to sleep so you feel better, but you're trying to tell me that I need to get up because I got a OCD about something in the fridge that, the bottle isn't turning or something. It makes up stuff too, man. It's crazy because I've lost friends because of it. And a lot of times I also look back at my career and see yeah, I'm moving on because I got to protect myself. But it doesn't mean that I don't respect who I've worked with. I appreciate all the work that we've done. It's just that, we as humans, we evolve, we change. And then on top of it, you got mental health. Now you're battling every time you go out to talk to somebody. And it's like, am I okay to, and you're asking yourself a list of questions instead of just doing it, and that's what's hard for me. So I just keep challenging myself every day to just do it, just go out and keep creating music because it helps. It's hard for me to, keep a job. So the music is the only thing. It's hard for me to stay focused. It's not that I don't want to. It's the additive of I want to be creative all the time, and that's all I care about. And it's oh boy.
The
fun.
Sad thing about dealing with this kind of stuff is, say, your mind makes up all these things that you worry about. Mine is always, am I making an idiot of myself?
Right. And it's always self. Because the biggest secret I ever learned that helped me, and I'm, as a young man, just navigating through these things. Mm-hmm. And I say that I'm kind of honored that I'm at this time period. I mean, this time period's not great, on everything, just in general. A lot less people talking. I say that I'm kind of like happy about it in a weird way, like not in the way of like, in a weird way, is that I'm actually able to learn and grow because I can. Things are different than they, if somebody had something like this, nobody would know. You'd be like, what's wrong with that kid? And it's like, but I'm happy to see that that's changed because there's a lot more musicians now able to express themselves the way that they've wanted to, and it's different, and it's kind of cool to see that. And I also like the idea. I do think that my bipolar adds to my music in the sense of my lyric writing because I see a full scale of emotions instead of just one sided. I could see. So when I write my stories, they're full, they're vivid. There's character. There's a person that I wrote about. And then finally, like with City Walk, and I think that's why it kind of I think is hitting with people, is that it's not just a character. You're getting the full scale of what I am in that song, and it's also a story. There's it's an interesting one. The roller coaster line was a big inspiration from Not a Surf. Big fan of Not a Surf, and they have that song Happy Kid. And I pulled the roller coaster line I wanted to mess with a little bit. So there's always inspirations. Actually, right. Matthew Cause is a great guy and a great friend. So it was fun writing that. But that song's been sitting for, I think, 3 years before release. We've had that like just in files. I wrote that right away. And then the Jebb thing went to a concept album. We really weren't doing singles. There was a little bit of disagreements amongst thing. I ran a record label for 2 years, and we're still dealing with the taxes and issues that it was like we didn't make any money, so we're trying to get all this stuff figured out. So I was on the phone with the IRS this morning. That's always fun. So that was a fun day today. So it's been a day. I had to get out, and then I went out, and that's I just got back. But it was one of those days of like, people are like, oh, you're living the dream. I'm like, yeah, calling the IRS and trying to get my schoolwork done to graduate college is living the music dream. But I'm just kidding. We're so happy about, the way things are going with this song. And I'm happy that I get to express who I am. Cause you'll see it in the interview. I'll go from one thing to another thing, but the songs help me express the self that I want to be, that like sometimes necessarily I can't always be. Cause I, just always trying to be that person in the songs, So it's fun.
It's great when I can talk to someone who relates to what's going through my head.
Yeah, of course. It's hard to find too. Like, yeah. And it's, why it's hard to find. I think it's that we're all more relatable than we think we are. Mm-hmm. And then there's just people that choose not to talk about it either, for their own reasons or whatever the reason may be. And then it's like, you realize that we're more close to a lot of people. Like people don't realize how somebody could have a common thing as one person. And I like to write about that in my songs too, is like how close we are as a human race to each other, but we all seem to try to be different. And that kind of creates this like big thing. And it really, that's why I love music so much. Cause it's that common language. You could be friends with anybody over a song. And I think that's like such a powerful, beautiful thing. And it's so cool. And especially power pop communities, they go range from being nicest people on the earth to the weirdest and like angriest people and like just a page over, and there's nothing wrong with that. Quote Seinfeld, there ain't anything wrong with that. But it's just like, it's funny to me that like you want a diverse group of people. You got the power pop community there. I actually met my producer through one of them, as I was saying earlier, because of just like, I was talking about Big Star or something. And then it like kind of veered off, and there's people like, well, Big Star's already known. I'm like, what planet are you on where Big Star was famous? ? Like you get into these like little arguments over music, which while you're in it, you're annoyed, but you look back and go, I just communicated with somebody, and that's like a lost art right now. So it's always exciting to still have that.
Exactly.
It's always fun. Yeah.
Well, you seem to like Toad the Wet Sprocket.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And
I've seen them a few times, which are good. They're a great band.
Well, to me, when I heard the song, it was as if Eric Clapton had joined Toad the Wet Sprocket and was trying to do Wonderful Tonight or something. But
like in the style, very, okay. All right.
I like
that.
Not copy.
I like that.
Not a copy of it, but in that kind of style of song, which I really enjoyed.
I blame Michael for that one. He really did a fun job putting that fuzz guitar in the background that you hear, because it's when it originally was. I play the acoustic on that track. This is actually the only track on the album I foresee that I'll actually be playing an instrument on, believe it or not. I've actually switched over to just singing, and then he does all like the production, and we bring artists in like the Wrecking Crew style kind of stuff. And this is the first time I'm doing this, and I was like nervous because like most artists, I'm always playing. I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot because I got nothing to lose. I got people I love working with, and it's something fun, and I like writing. That's my calling, is writing, and I do sing, good. I'm pretty proud of my voice, but that's something I've always worked on. But like guitar, I just play rhythm, so it's nice to have these guys that can play better than me, and I'm just hiring. It's nice to have that, which a lot of musicians don't like, and it's like makes me a little different because I'm like, I'm okay with this. It's fun to me. But with City Walk, I am on the acoustic for that. But I do blame Michael for the guitaring on that because it sounds so good. But it does have that like Eric Clapton sound. It's like but it like meets the Mudhoney like kind of '90s vibe of like the fuzz pedal was left on or something, like it. But it's very cool. But definitely that was Michael Collins, because he's not just a drummer; he's like bass, guitar, everything, which is such an honor to work with him.
So has anybody ever told you, because of your love of the older music, that you have an old soul?
Oh yeah, I actually almost adapted it. I think no, we did adapt it. So we were doing this mishmash band for J.Edmond. This was recent, and I had my buddy Gavin on bass, and then I had this guy who was like in his 50s, one of my good friends. No, he was on bass. Gavin was on drums because Gavin plays bass for me now. But we were like hanging out. We just called ourselves J.Edmond and the Old Souls because we all were like this. But I've been called an old soul. I'm 24, which shocks everybody when I talk about my music, and because I love like Badfinger and all this stuff. So they think I'm in my 30s, which is fine. But I've always like laughed at it. But then I started just to embrace it because I was running a business at like 21. I'm like, I got to embrace this now because I have that old soul mentality. We ran a record label for a little bit. We actually had D Long of Klaatu signed for like a month, and that was right. My mental health took over, and a lot of people don't do this. I had to. I put it first. I put my mental health first because I was like, I'm not gonna make it if I don't. Like, and then I won't be here. Like, it's sad as that sounds. It's the truth. And I was like, I got to put myself first. But what was really cool, and that's why I thank all my artists, all of them, were very nice to me and understood. Like, it was the first time, they had dreams too of being on this label. And so I've always been like kind of apologetic, but also glad it's over because I'm working on myself, getting better, going and doing the things I need to do to get better, getting out more. It's exercise that's important too, because you're in the sun, you're, feeling it. Winter sucks. That's one of the songs coming up too, it's called Winter. That's going to be on the album too, but it's about, it's so simple, but yet means more. It's about that month where a lot of folks that suffer from like depression or any of those kind of multiple of those diseases, or I should say just mental health. They're not really diseases. I don't like using that, but everybody like hibernates in the winter. We all gotta like kind of hide until the first robin shows up, and then we're like, oh, we can go outside now. It's like, so it's a play on that because I've dealt with that my whole life. I consider myself like a young version of Brian Wilson. I have that wanting and producing head, but I don't like have access to that. So it's so cool working with these LA musicians that I can tell them, hey, I'm looking for this in this song, and they can get that. And it's a lot of fun. But I've always looked up to like Brian Wilson. So again, the old soul thing does fit.
Yeah, I've read a little bit about the band. I guess y'all have gotten pretty tight. So tell me about the guys that are playing with you, and how did y'all get that mesh?
Sure. So yeah, I usually kind of do the Matthew Sweet approach where I'm like working with multiple people at times. So it's my solo, stuff, but I try to find like the best like session guys, all around. But when I play certain shows, I like to bring in the friends that I've had and worked with. So like I'm doing a show in August on the August 15th at the Cellar in Treadwell, if anybody's watching from Connecticut, in Hamden, Connecticut. And it's going to be fun. I'm really excited for that. But I'm going to bring my friend Gavin, who's in the picture. He was playing drums at the time. Now he's on bass. The bass player we had got back with his old band, and really have a lot of respect for him. So still look up to him. It was cool to work with him for the time we had. And so we got this band kind of going. Right now I'm like shuffling around because I practice sets every day because I'm trying to like gig at restaurants and stuff. So I like throw John Waite covers on, Velvet Crush, The Figs. Like I'll just throw covers in and I do my originals. And so like right now I'm doing mostly solo. But when we like crank out a show, we'll just like all call up. I'll be like, guys, I need you for this, and we just hop on and just have fun. But I have a hard time because of my mental health forming friendships and groups with like brotherhood and stuff. It's hard for me. So like a lot of times I'm very honest about it. I tell the people I work with, like I have that meatloaf thing where I'm nice to you. I'm a big bear, but like, I have a line where I'm like, there's a certain side of me that only certain people can like kind of get into. And it sucks because it's hard to form those bands that would work. I mean, music is so great and I know people can play it. So it's been nice, everything being digital. with the new record. Everything's just getting sent because it makes it possible. Because I think, like with me, I'm prone to argue over little things because I get emotional over certain things. And I'm glad that I have the gift of, one thing I'm grateful about the internet for is this possibility of doing this album back and forth with all these different members. And Michael's making the record sound so good. But like I said, I like bringing my friends on and supporting them. So like one of our shows, I'm going to bring Brian Larney on, who's another local musician here who does his own stuff that's original, but he agreed to play bass for me. So it's like kind of cool. I'm able to hop around and have like multiple people. So it's fun. Very grateful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'll tell you, when I heard this, I honestly thought you were older, and I thought you'd been playing that for decades.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It was a little bit of a shock when I was like, this is a kid.
I was wondering how the world would take that, because this J.Edmond thing's new to me. It's as much as it's new to the audience. It's kind of cool that I've done music before as Jebb, and we had this whole thing. Now all of a sudden I'm starting new and I'm getting a new audience. So the audience and me are in the same boat. We're in the same boat of discovering each other at the same time, because I'm still finding my voice with this J.Edmond thing. I've dressed like all my promo shots are going to be different outfits for each of the songs as we release the singles. And it's like, because I'm representing like the bipolar side of like where I'm really manic-y and then I'm like really depressed. So you got emo side of me with like anime shirts on and like that side. And then you have the bright jazz outfits that I'm finding and doing my next photo shoot, which will have orange pants. That's the next one, which is going to be interesting. And I'm going to go take some photos in the city. And I'm just like getting nervous here because I don't usually wear this kind of stuff. But it'll be fun to see what the audience think and that kind of stuff. But I really appreciate that as the old soul comment is like very prevalent. I don't know if that's a word. Like, present in my life, which is funny. And it's funny that the music too. I mean, I was inspired by Toad the Wet Sprocket, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. And with City Walk, definitely a little bit of the early All-America Rejects, the Get Up Kids with the vocals a little bit. But I have such a great mix of love of music that it definitely emulates into my singing and into my songs and my writing, of course. I write at a coffee shop called Purgatory Coffee in Southington, Connecticut. And they have like multiple locations, but I've been like going there and just writing. And as I'm writing the song, I'm going, oh, this is like going to be a metal song. And you have like these versions of yourself that you write. And then it's like, I don't know if I can pull that one off. And then I scrap it. And then, we go into studio and Michael's like, you need to keep that one. We got to do that one. I'm like, okay. So there's always like the different sides of things. But it's funny that like a lot of people do, if they hear me, they think I'm like in my 30s or 40s or have been playing and it's an honor because I love playing. I love music, but I've never saw myself as a skilled one person. Like this whole singing adventure for me has been new. I never really believed in my voice. I was a radio host. I like the radio side of me. I never really thought I had the voice. And then all of a sudden I'm working with Michael on this song and I'm finding it. I'm like, whoa, that's in me. So it's been cool that City Walk was like a nice introduction. But this next song is going to, I think, blow everybody out of the water, which is Searchlights. But City Walk is, we're working on a lo-fi remix of that. I want to like enter into the electric world a little bit. I have an Air for Effort and I are working on that, a guy from Connecticut. And it was cool. That whole single run was awesome. And I like getting this interview now where I can like give you a recap, what City Walk did for us. And we made like all these local newses. Associated Press covered us, which was really cool. I guess EIN Presswire sent us out to all these newspapers, which thank you to Glass Onion for all that. Billy is one of the coolest. I've been friends with him for a while. So it's been such something different. I'm emotional over it because it's like something I've just haven't accepted about myself, but the world has accepted it. I haven't yet. And that's not a bad thing to have to deal with. Now it's just self-acceptance, and it's a lot.
Yeah, believe me, I struggle with that myself.
Mm-hmm.
People say, oh man, you do such a great job on your show. Right. And I think, God, I suck.
Right. And it's hard to change that mindset. It took me, I'm still working on it. I don't want to say it. I'm young, so I have the excuse like, oh, I'm 20. I got time, But it's reality. It's you put the work in as much as you want out. And when it comes to mental health, it's double the work. Because people always tell me, oh, you just got to put the work. I've done that. And I'm still exhausted every day. I'm exhausted when I get up in the morning and my brain is running 100%. I run on basically a caffeine brain, even without caffeine. Like I have to have caffeine to even it's so bad. And it's that kind of thing to explain it. And it's like, I get, like you said earlier, with like getting up at like 2 a.m, you know, I have to get up early. So I've tamed it. I wake up at 6 instead, and I just tame it. And all my friends aren't even up yet. They're like, you know, normal people. They're up at like 2 in the afternoon. They're normal. They're just sleeping all day. And I've already had half my day done without the full-time job, because I can't handle it. I can't handle certain things that I should have grown up and been out of, you know, I still have to deal with. And it's okay. I'm instead of hating myself for it, I look at it this way. I go, at least I did something today more productive than I did yesterday. You know, like, is whether I go out and go to the park. Like, I'm not, you know, I'm doing my own thing. I go to the park. I still got out of my house, which is really a hard task for me some days. And it's nice to know that the songs they are reflected and people are picking it up, which makes me very happy, because it's helping me get through this is the music. But it's scary when you put your soul out there. You know, you wrote this song from your heart, you put it out there, and then people are like, you could get really bad, like, hey, just grow up, get out there. Yeah. But it seems like the world has been very, very, in at least my view, and what I've been dealing with, very receptive of this song, and very excited to see what I have going on. And I'm honored, just very humbled and grateful for it. It's exciting I can't wait to see what the next song does. And it's okay if it doesn't do, you know, it's not going to get, you know, fame overnight. And I'm okay with that. I just want people to hear my songs, to say, hey, I want to be that, because I love the Beatles. I wish I could be that big. You know, everybody does when you're a musician. Right. But I also like the Byrds, and I can even go smaller. I also like Praying Mantis, which is one of the best new wave heavy metal bands that didn't really get their due. You know, Iron Maiden was bigger, and Judas Priest, and those things. But I just see how they act and how excited they are about their music, still as they should have been bigger type bands. You know, Big Star, all these big power pop bands, and Badfinger, especially how tragic that story was. And wow. It's like, you see all these, because I'm friends with, I've met Joey a few times, which is really cool, and really nice guy. But this whole story is tainted. You know, it's all different takes of the story and everything. So I always stay in the middle. I know both sides of it. I'm friends with members in the other Badfinger of it. So I always kind of just stay in the middle, because, you know, my opinion doesn't matter. The band was good. The band was good. And everything they did makes me want to become a musician even more. And I hope one day that my music can do that for other folks. Even if I'm not doing it the traditional way of, you know, having the full band that I'm tight with, I'm okay. That dream was long gone after my first band, as we always kind of seemed to fight more than we made music. And it added to the songs, but it didn't, in the long run, it didn't have what a band that's going to make it would have. You know, we had our struggles, and some of it's my fault for sure. You know, but it made the songs good, and it's terrible. But I like the solo approach, even though it took me a long time to be brave enough. I mean, on top of all the fears I have, I got the voice in my head that says you're not good enough constantly, you know, and it's real. And people think it's just like, oh, you can just ignore it. It's not necessarily a voice, it's like the wires in my head are making noise, and the brain is picking up the noise as this, you know, negative thing. But I just keep challenging it every day, and I can't control it. So I write music, and that's where I can kind of control it, you know. Sometimes I write some really interesting songs. They get trashed because they're very negative, but, you know, one day maybe, but it'll be like the very heavy metal album that I come out with.
Well, at least you're not just letting it beat you down and you've given up. You're trying. You're doing everything you can, and that's an inspiration in itself.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I you know what it is I let it beat me down for too long. I really did. I went through it. It's not like, I love hearing interviews when folks talk about this stuff, and they always talk about, oh yeah, I can't let it knock me down. But they never talk about the time that it actually did, and they had to work from it. And that's the period I just went through. This whole year has been very challenging, and learning who I am at 24, which is supposed to happen. But on top, you had a mental illness that distracts you. You know, I want to be alive. Every day is amazing. If the way you look at the world can be changed in the matter of just taking a breath, it's insane how your view can change in the matter of taking a breath. But a lot of times people forget, and regular folks, or folks, I don't even want to say that, but folks that don't have these things or don't have to deal with these things, I don't know if it's necessarily true that they don't deal with anything. I think everybody deals with something. You know, some of us deal with it more than others at a higher rate. And I just think that, like, for me, I've always been blessed and lucky, and I knew I was lucky. I started meeting famous people. I started meeting like all these guys, and I did my radio show. It came naturally to just meet like big stars. I mean, I've had Joey Molland on, and, you know, I'm not freaking out. I'm like very professional, and it's like all of a sudden, and then you have those bad moments where you have to take care of yourself. You have to say, look, I'm not me today. Everybody that's supposed to be in my life will understand this. Time to get off the phone, go take a nap, watch Netflix. You know, there's things I can do. And for me, it's just been getting outside more and like going to the park and just sitting by a tree. Like it makes a huge difference. It's weird, but I've noticed it's really helped. But I'm very thankful for the team I have, and grateful for folks like you that want to keep this music known, because it means it means a lot. It's hard to get discovered in the first place. It's even harder to find people that actually care. Like they're not just part of it. So really appreciate it.
If somebody wants to get the single, where can they get it from?
You can find it on J.Edmond.bandcamp.com. That is the best way to support me directly. You could get it for like, I think it's $2 digital. We did have CDs for a little bit. They're like $5, but I might restock if there's big enough interest, you know, get some physicals in there. I can restock very easily. But right now we're out until I get some interest, because I don't want to buy into it when we have the new single coming out. But J.Edmond.bandcamp.com, Jedmond. I could spell my name. I got it. .bandcamp.com. That was always fun. And you could hear it on streaming as well. But I always like to promote Bandcamp. They've done so much for artists that, you know, you actually get paid for your art. Like, wow, it's like, oh, it's so cool. So I always promote that link first. You can find me on social media at J period, the period sign, EDMOND period again 56. So J.Edmond.56.
And all your links, I will put it in the description.
Awesome.
Just to make it easy for folks to find you.
Let me know. We'll shout it out on our side too. Make sure our team gets it out there too for us. And this is very exciting. Thank you.
Oh, I appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot. And I also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button. For my regulars, you guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Till the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless, and peace.
Yeah.